Here's Brody Brazil.
I guess I'm making this video for aspiring sports broadcasters. Maybe you're young, you're curious, you're thinking about getting into the sports media landscape, and you're interested to know, like, what is it actually about? What does it entail? What are some things that I should know? And so I want to do my part and share some things about working in sports broadcasting. And I'm saying broadcasting because that's been my thing. I guess I could have said media as a bigger picture. Whether you're doing writing or broadcasting or reporting or social media, if you work in and around sports, I think these are all commonalities that you will find, as I have across the last 20 plus years. First and most obvious to a lot of people who get in the business, you're working a lot of nights and weekends and holidays. You know why? Because that's when the games are. Games happen when people are free. And that means if a lot of your friends work normal jobs, you work at a very different time than they do. They're 9 to 5. You're more like 3 to midnight every day, PM. And so nights and weekends and holidays, they just become part of your routine. Heck, I am here making this video right now on a Saturday. I work almost every Saturday, year round, and a lot of Sundays in the summertime with baseball. And I've just gotten used to it. Like, I'm not saying that as a complaint. I'm just saying this is what I've grown accustomed to. It also affords me the opportunity to have a lot of Wednesday, Thursdays off, Thursday, Fridays off. And you'd be amazed at what you can get accomplished and things you can do and places you can go because they're not crowded like they are on weekends. So it does offer opportunities. I don't want to paint this as a negative. I'm just saying this right here is what has a lot of people tapping out of the business in their first couple years because they realize they're out of sync with friends and family and opportunities and occasions. And, when everybody's having that party on a Saturday night, well, you probably have a hockey game to cover. So it's something I've been experiencing for many decades now, multiple decades now. But you get used to it, and there's always ways around it. Just don't be surprised. Nights, weekends, and holidays are a big thing when you work professional sports. You will find also that you tend to connect more with people than teams. Now, let me make this very clear. Like, the teams I cover primarily, the Sharks and the A's, like, they were my teams growing up. And the Warriors would be in that conversation too. I have a great, fondness for them, as I have since I was a small kid. But I think what you find over the years is it's not that you have all your loyalty only to a team, a logo, a mascot, and some team colors. It's not that. What you find out is that you connect with people because they're on that team, but you connect with them more than you do the teams. And that especially holds true when you're talking about opponents of the team you cover. There's a lot of players in baseball right now that do not play for the Oakland A's, but I will root for them through thick and thin, no matter where they're playing, because I know them now as people. I can't say they're friends because I'm not like hanging out with them on a regular basis, but if we were closer and there was the opportunity, maybe we would be friends. But what I'm getting at here is that you easily find out that you are more interested in rooting for people than teams all the time. And to say that, well, I hate the Los Angeles Angels. I mean, a lot of A's fans would say that because they had been Oakland's rivals for many years. But there might be a lot of players on the Angels that you like or that you don't like. The point being is that you connect with certain people more than you actually do teams and logos. There's also this regarding people in sports broadcasting, sports media. Not everyone is what you expected them to be. Let me be very clear about this. Sports has a way of magnifying and platforming, and I don't want to say like building up, but they have a way, sports has a way of creating a persona of somebody, right? Which may actually not be them in real life. Just because you're good at sports doesn't mean you're a good person or a likable person or that you are what we think you are. Sports has a way of building up somebody to be something, but then when you find out that you actually meet them, As Dontrell Willis, the Alameda native and obviously celebrated major leaguer, once told me, we are friends, by the way, D-Train told me, don't ever meet your heroes. Like kind of a slogan and a saying. And it's not a joke. I mean, it sounds like a joke, but don't ever meet your heroes. A lot of times you'll come across people who you had an impression of. You're like, gotta be a good person, right? I've watched them play all these years. I've watched a couple interviews. They must be that way in real life too. It's kind of like the movies. Just because you play a bad guy on screen doesn't mean you're a bad guy. Just because you play the hero on the screen doesn't mean you're a good person in real life, or somebody that you would actually get along with that you thought you would get along with. You know, baseball's very much that way. Sports is very much that way. But I think there's also the flip side. Sometimes you meet somebody who you thought they were something, and then they are that. And that really warms your heart. You know, that's the moment where you're like, yeah, this person is what I thought they were. And that's satisfying. So I don't want to make this all negative. And look, what I'm saying about sports, I just said it applies to movies. It applies to a lot of things in life. Not everybody is what you thought from the outside looking in. You can't judge a book by its cover, good or bad. I'm just saying in sports, we have a certain way of boosting somebody's image when in reality, just because what they do on the field or what they do in competition, it may not indicate who they are in real life. You have to detach yourself work-wise from wins and losses. You'll find that out working in sports media and broadcasting. I will say this. When a team is winning, it makes your job so much easier. In the main sense that, like, it's easy to discuss and cover a winning team, and the athletes and the coaches and the front office, they're way more talkative because success equals happiness equals elation equals a lot more words about it. And maybe if it's a really good team, more people are covering the team. So there's more attention around it. There's more conversations around it. Some of the winningest teams I've ever covered have coincidentally been the easiest teams to cover. And that's not knocking anybody who covers a winning team. It's just saying that the job is a lot different as opposed to a team that's losing. And you're constantly searching for answers. And sometimes there just are no answers. And you'll see some media digging and digging, trying to find, why did this happen? What was that mistake? Who's at fault here? And it's not that clear all the time. Or it's not something that anybody wants to talk about. So then you make up your own reasoning why. Winning and losing, first off, complicates it. But here's what I'm saying. You need to detach your work from winning and losing. I host a post-game show as well as a pre-game show. But if I come on after a 9-1 win in a baseball or in a hockey game, right, that seems like an easy show to do. But I also want it to be just as good of a show, even if it was a 9-1 loss. So how do you do that? In a loss, you're sensible about it. You're reasonable about it. You're not throwing anybody under the bus, but you're pointing things out. You're doing the same thing, honestly, win or lose. But you also can't let the game situation dictate the work and the effort you put in. Good team, bad team, doesn't matter. Your show, your work is different from what the team is doing. Some people early on in their careers, I definitely see it. It's hard for them to detach their work and what they do from how the team is performing. Over time, you realize that, you're separate from the result of a game. So don't ever let one leak over into the other. And then here, if you're not evolving in this business, you will get passed by. And that's very clear, like a lot of things. I don't think this is unique to sports, media, or broadcasting at all, but it's an ever-changing landscape. The things I do here in 2022 are so different from what I focused in on back in, let's say, 2012. The responsibilities, the rewards, the focus, the way I present, the topics of discussion. I mean, again, I think this is a widespread piece of advice, but it is very specific to our industry. Maybe if you were a plumber in 2012, maybe there's not a lot different that you're doing in the last 10 years. Some jobs might just be like that. But broadcasting and media is one where the technology, what the viewer expects, what the boss expects, how the players are, it is ever changing. And if you are not evolving with it, I guarantee you will be passed by in not a very good way. So those are just 5 things I wanted to share about working in sports broadcasting. Something I've been doing for a while, something you probably observe. Thanks for sticking with me, by the way, this long in the video. Kind of long-winded on that, but it's a passion I just wanted to share. So if you have any other questions or comments, you know where to put them down below.